A couple of weeks ago, I was at an event and I was talking to business owners, and the topic of software came up, and specifically the amount of money that people are spending on software. And look, at the end of the day, software is expensive. There's no denying it. And every business needs some level of software to operate. I mean, you don't have to have software. It is possible to operate a business without software. But yeah, software surely does make things better. But one of the business owners I was talking to, he's a newer business, revenues of $1,500 a month or less, spending $800 a month on software. That's insane. And it's really comes out of talking to other peers like, oh, I'm using this software for this, and I'm using that for that, and we should do this with automation. And I think the problem is that we can look at spending all kinds of money to automate our businesses. But at the end of the day, there's one thing I want you to remember. Software does not mean sales. And we'll talk about it in this particular episode. But there was something else that happened at that event, something that kind of caught me, a thought process that I had. And I'm thinking, this guy is essentially working in his business to fund the SaaS subscriptions. And, they're not going to be able to gain traction, or maybe if they do, it's going to be a while. And I've seen this play out so many times where so much of the revenue goes to pay for these expenses, these software expenses and subscriptions, that you just begin to feel defeated. Am I ever going to get there? And hopefully we can kind of talk about that, because that is something that can sneak up on you in any stage of business. Whether you're new, it's easy to overspend. When you're more mature business, it's still easy to overspend. And that's what we're going to look at in this particular show. And I'm hoping that I give you a framework that will help you get out of that trap. Now, today I'm going to put on the three hats that I love to wear: the operations hat, the finance hat, and the technology hat. And really, here's the irony of this whole thing. What you're about to hear is from somebody who built a SaaS product that's used by hundreds of people monthly. And quite frankly, I'm like always one of the slowest people in the room to add a new software. Someone will say, you should do this. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. I don't like to change software. I love software. I'm a tech kind of driven person. But I don't love introducing new software into my business, and I definitely don't like introducing it to my team, because I like stability. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. So I'm not here to talk to you about being anti-tech, because I'm not. I'm really here to talk to you about anti-waste. How do we kind of get into the right mindset so that we focus on what's at hand right now, the problems that we have right now, and we let software fix or come into the play when it's there. As always, I'm Scott Todd, and let's talk. All right. So first, operations hat comes on. And the thing that I want to really talk about here is that software, while it can be seen as good, it does create obligations. And the first thing about software that's important to understand is that when someone is starting a new job, or maybe you, but let's talk about it from your team member's perspective. When someone joins your company, there's already a big learning curve to a job, okay? So they have to learn how you operate. They have to understand the environment in which you're operating, how you do things. And from an operational standpoint, that is a huge cognitive load on somebody. But then we compound it when we have to now learn software with the job, right? Like, it's one thing to know the job and to try to come up to speed on it. And then it's another thing to learn the software that supports the job. So software from an operational standpoint, while it can gain operational efficiencies, it can also create a load that creates other obligations to train a new employee on how to use the software, obligations from you as the operator for maintenance and integrations and updates and monitoring, all that stuff. So every tool that we interject into the company is really a commitment to more attention. There's a joke I heard once about technology, and they said, you're not buying a solution, you're simply hiring a needy employee. And that is true, because whenever we add something to our operations, we add complexity, even if it's designed to take complexity out, like automation, right? So when we understand it from that perspective, maybe we see one side of the equation there. But let's talk about it from a finance standpoint. The math, it just sometimes just doesn't add up. Everything has to fit in and be kind of supported by the company. And what I mean by that is, I think about from a finance perspective, I'm always thinking about a percent of revenue. This line item, let's say SaaS, for example, software as a service, I look at the line item and I expect it to be within some percentage, right? Like I think in percentages when I think about financials, profit and loss statements. For example, if my revenue is 100%, of all the money coming into the business, well, then my cost of goods sold needs to be some portion of that. Let's say, 30 to 40%. And then salaries and payroll should be, 20%. And software should be, 5 to 10%. Okay, that's my rule of thumb. But every business can also be different, because if you're running a technology business, for example, well, maybe technology or software is a more expensive part of your profit and loss statement. It's 30%. Okay, so it really just depends on the individual business. But in most businesses, I think that it's fair to say 5 to 10% of your revenue. When you're spending 50, 60% of your revenue on software, red alert, you're in a death spiral on that business, and we have to pull it up fast. So as I said, my rule of thumb is 10% of revenue max. Above that, I'm starting to sweat here. And I really like it to be around 5%. But I expect something else from the finance perspective, I expect something else from my software. And what I expect from everything in my business is a return on investment. Every dollar that I spend, every dollar that's an expense on my P&L needs to have a return on investment. And I don't think a lot of people think like that. In the last episode of this show, I talked about hiring people and how even people I hire, I expect a return on investment. Software is no different. I expect a return on investment from my software. And how do I get it? How do I measure it? I'm looking for, basically after 12 months or so, I want to see that I've got a 2x return on my spend. I want to be able to quantify this in some way. Now, we can debate and spend a lot of time debating how do we get to that ROI. And software companies will love to tell you about all the efficiencies that you're going to gain, all the hours that you're going to save. But what I want to see is real savings. So when I introduce a software into something, I want to be able to say, this process took me 20 minutes and now it's 60 seconds. And that's something that actually happened in my business. One of my businesses is we had a process that was not automated. It took 20 minutes to do. And when I introduced automation into it, and showed the company or the team how to automate that component of it, we dropped it to 60 seconds. Okay, that's a 2,000% improvement. That's a 95% gain in efficiencies. That is something that there's an ROI to, and I would expect that software to be able to cover that, and I want to be able to kind of basically put it into writing. So these are actual savings, not theoretical savings. And I think that that's a real important part here, that theoretical, not the theoretical, but the actual savings, is that when we try to add technology too early into the business, before we have people, before we have revenue, then we're never going to be able to calculate the revenue gains or the profitability gains that we have that the software is contributing to. We're not going to be able to do that. It's going to be theoretical, not actual, because we don't have any baselines to go by. Now, let me put on the third hat here, the technology hat, and argue from that perspective. Look, technology does drive efficiencies. I'm not here to deny that. There's no magic behind it. Software can make you more efficient. It can move things along faster. I just gave you the argument that I had a process that took 20 minutes. We got it down to 60 seconds. That is real efficiencies. That's real benefits to the company. The particular employee that I'm telling you about that managed that function, he told me his entire day was spent watching for an email to come in that an order had been placed. He would then go in there and process it for 20 minutes each. So if he got 3 orders in an hour, he was at capacity. Okay. Now he told me because it's automated, he basically watches it 3 times a day, morning, noon, and before he leaves for the day. So yeah, those are real efficiencies in there, and efficiencies are really all that matters. We want technology to drive some sort of efficiencies. We also want it to be able to quantify some revenue that we're generating from it, okay? The guy that I was telling you about, is there revenue that's generated from that? Well, the revenue comes in with the order, and this is an order fulfillment process. But you know what the difference is? Is that now he's freed up to go do other things, and he's producing revenue in other ways. That's a key thing that we want to think about. Even in my own real estate business, when I introduced software in the form of a CRM, it generated sales, but I didn't do that CRM from day one. I had revenue already in the business to support the investment in the software. One of my favorite kind of audio bites, you hear this all the time, is from Paul Graham. Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator, Silicon Valley, kind of startup, company, if you will. And basically, he has a lot of great wisdom, Paul Graham does. But one of the things that really stands out to me is this principle that he has that says, do things that don't scale. When you start a business, do things that don't scale. Let's listen to this audio clip.
What doing things that don't scale means specifically is doing things in a sort of handmade, artisanal, painstaking way that you feel like, yeah, it would be great if you could do things that way forever. But you're in the back of your mind, you think to yourself, well, there's no way we could keep doing this and become giant, right? And what do things that don't scale means is do those things early on anyway, because if you don't do them, you'll never be big, so you got nothing to lose. And also, you learn a lot from it. You learn a lot. And so I discovered a lot of these things that we teach startups at Y Combinator, or you teach startups at Y Combinator. I'm retired. I don't know if you know that. But a lot of things you guys teach startups are things that I hit myself and didn't realize that they were actually common startup lessons. So one of them is doing things very manually for your early customers. Like, it's so important to get early customers that if you have to do a ton of manual stuff, that's okay. You'll learn a lot from it.
Okay. So the point is really there. Like, we want to do things in the beginning of our business. It's like getting our hands dirty. We want to go do these things. Okay. Like, we want to be involved with the customers. We want to kind of like get involved and to get dirty and to do the things that ideally we could scale later on. But in the beginning, our time doesn't scale. So we want to focus on that because that's going to give us what we need to connect with our customers, to connect with our business, right? But there's another kind of framework, another thought process that I want to walk you through. And this is the process that I call, or the framework that I call, the Investor Priority Pyramid, the IPP. And it's actually taken from my book that's coming out January 13th, 2026, Fix This Next for Real Estate Investors. And in the IPP, I have 5 levels of basically where you should be prioritizing the work that you're doing. The base level is deal flow, then it's profitability, and then it's efficiencies. Okay, so it's called the order level. So order level is all about creating efficiencies, and software is all about efficiency. So in the early days of our business, or at any days of our business, not just the early days, at any time in our business, if we need deal flow, for example, that means that we need to be out there acquiring properties. We need to be out there selling properties. Maybe we're out there acquiring capital, creating capital networks to support the deal flow. All of that stuff that's in the base level of the IPP, if that's what our business needs most, and by the way, revenue is in the base level. So if we need revenue, we should be focusing on that base level only. And then when we have the revenue, when we have the base level that we need done and the deal flow is flowing in, then we start to look for ways to be more profitable. And then we start to look for efficiencies. So when we're profitable, then we add more software, right? Like that's the whole secret here. And efficiencies is more than just software. There's 5 levels in there. I'm not going to go into all of them today, but see, that's the way that the IPP works. Deal flow, if we need deal flow, it's all hands on deck to the deal flow. If we have deal flow and if we have profitability, then we can look for ways to become more efficient. But in the beginning, we don't need to worry about efficiency. So the whole thing with software, where we're building these systems and these fancy automations, we're trying to create efficiencies at the wrong time. So what I encourage you to do is to figure out, okay, we got to stop messing around with the automations and the efficiencies, and we need to get to the core, which is deal flow. And that's what you're seeing here. It's like this move. We're going to take this move and build this whole concept down, push it down into the software, because at the end of the day, when you need deal flow, which means that you need revenue, software is not going to generate the revenue. Okay, remember, software enters higher up into the stage. It enters into the order level. So applying that manual first principle, I want to really talk about, kind of the technology and what I did, okay? Because the way that I did it, I'm not saying is the way that you should do it or is the exact right way to do it. I'm just telling you how I did it. And what I did was I stayed lean. Okay, so I stayed technology lean. I spent very little dollars on technology. I did the bare minimum, okay? And honestly, when I needed to have software, if I could find the free version, I did it. The other thing that I didn't want to do is I really, probably like you, is I didn't want to commit to a software only to turn around and have to change software later, right? Like, that's not, there's friction in there, and I get it. Like, I didn't want to do that either. But I did find some good free resources that I used. For example, my email service at the time was MailChimp. And I think to this day, MailChimp still has a free version. If not, you can find other applications. I know that, for example, instead of using MailChimp, you could easily go to AppSumo, for example, appsumo.com. And on there, I think that they always have, I think if you just spend $99 a year on their premium plan or something, they give you a bunch of software for free, one of which is, I think, a service called SynFox. Go check that out, SynFox. And look, I'm not being paid for this. I'm just telling you how I would do it today, but I tried to find the free versions of software. And then what I did was I just lived within the limitations. And, that gave me some level of efficiency, basic levels of efficiency. And at some point you start to hit the upper limits, it doesn't do that anymore. And as I know it's going to sound like, terrible idea, but the whole idea is that you can always change software later on. You may not want to, but there's a lot of things that we don't want to, but the business has to grow into that. We cannot choose the most expensive car to drive around when we have no money, right? That's the whole thing. We upgrade our cars, we upgrade our houses, we upgrade our lives. We need to be able to upgrade our software too, as revenue grows and continues to go in there. Now, if you're sitting on this podcast, if you're seeing this episode and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're like, oh, you're sweating bullets because, I don't know, maybe you feel like I'm calling you out. I'm not trying to call you out. I'm just giving you I'm hoping to give you a different way of thinking about this. But maybe you're thinking like, man, okay, I'm higher than the limit. I'm higher than the 10%. That's a fair metric, Scott. Like, what do I do? Well, I hate to break bad news to you, but here it comes. And that is that you're going to have to abandon it, right? Like, you're going to have to reduce. You're going to have to downsize your software. We have to cut the bloat. That's the only way we can fix this problem. And listen, this does not apply just to startups either. I'm telling you, I've done it. I've looked at my software, it kind of explodes sometimes. I have to step back and be like, what are we doing? It's a lot like those, streaming services. Can we just go back to cable TV where we paid one price? I still have cable and I have all these other subscriptions. And guess what? I can't find where anything is. I need a TV guide for the streaming services. Someone please bring back TV Guide. Okay, I know you can find it online, whatever, but it's complicated, right? Okay, I digress. How do we fix this? What do we have to do? Well, you're going to have to abandon what you've done. And that's painful. Some of you are like brutal. You're like, you can't do it. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the sunk cost fallacy. Okay, the sunk cost fallacy is basically saying like, I've done all this work or I've spent this money. And if I do all of this and I abandon it, it's gone. True, it's gone, right? But here's what I really want you thinking about. If you don't get your expenses under control, if you don't get these expenses under control, then you're going to become resentful of your business. You're going to feel like everything that you're working for is going for subscriptions. You're going to get burnt out and you're going to quit. And if that happens, guess what? You just lost all the work that you did. So either way here, you're probably going to go and lose some work, right? Like, you're either going to lose it that you can build back onto in the future. You've learned a lesson. You're going to be able to pick up on that. Or worst case scenario, your business doesn't survive because it burned you out. And if that's the case, well, then you lost all the work anyway, right? And that's the whole point here is I'm trying to stop you from getting burnt out, or I'm trying to stop you from having to feel like you're working for these software subscriptions so that you can move forward. And this whole thing also reminds me of really the opening story from the book Fix This Next for real estate investors. Because in there, the very first story, I talk about a business owner who basically was calling it a day. That he's like, I'm done. I'm punching out. And I hear these stories quite often, and they're sad to me. They're sad because I know that somebody is giving up on their dreams, at least for this moment. And I hate when that happens. I've been there. I've gone through, I did 5 forays into real estate investing. It was the 5th one that actually took off. So 4 other times I was the one tapping out, like, I can't do it anymore. And I don't really want that to happen to you. And in this case, they did tap out. And one of the things that they cited was really all of the money they were spending on subscriptions, amongst other things. When the book comes out, you'll read it. I know you will. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily going to happen to you, but I want you to be aware of it, right? And I also want to give you emotional permission. You see, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong by cutting back the software, right? It's the software you bought early on is a tool, okay? Like, the software that you're dealing with today is a tool. If you're not maximizing that tool, or if that tool is not working for you, if it's not producing the revenue or the efficiencies that you can quantify, send it walking, send it packing. The whole thing, this whole software thing really reminds me of the 1848 gold rush. Gold miners, they found gold in California. People were rushing out to California. And the miners yeah, some of them made money. Some of them broke even. Some of them lost money. But the people that made the money were the suppliers of the tools. It was the suppliers of the tools that got rich. Levi Strauss is one of them, right? So Levi Strauss, the SaaS companies today, they're the ones that are kind of convincing you that you have to have their tool so that you can strike the gold. But guess what? You don't. You really don't. All right. How do we do this? How do we fix this whole thing? So here's my digital minimum stack, if you will, based on, basically based on just the dollars that you have available. Here we go. All right. So if I was trying to keep my business low, the stock extremely low, I'm going to resort to as many free tools as I can. Gmail, yeah, it's not the fancy, G Suite thing where everybody has like a domain with your company name on it. Yeah, there's credibility in there. I agree with you. Is it absolutely needed? No, you can do a side hustle on the side without a, branded, Google domain. You can do it, okay? Google Sheets is great. I use it all the time. I also like Excel. Excel is my favorite tool, but you know what? Google Sheets is really good too. Stripe for a credit card merchant account, if possible. Not every business is eligible for Stripe, but if you can, use that. A basic website, man, like basic. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a web designer. So look, if you're under $10,000 of revenue, let me do this. If you're under $5,000 a month of revenue, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Use the free tools whenever possible. Nothing fancy. Low cost. Okay. So you want to make your business earn these tools, right? Like you do want them to earn the tools. I joke that I had a business going. It had like $5,000 of revenue. I think it was like $4,800 in revenue. Let's call it $5,000. And I hired a sales rep. And the first thing she said to me is, where's all the leads? And I'm like, well, I keep all the leads on index cards. I love index cards. I keep them all on index cards. I just filter through them. This is who I got to call back. Next call back. It's the old school way. And she's like, well, we really need a CRM. And I'm like, okay, I agree with you. I got her a CRM. I did the cheapest one I could find. I think it was like $25 a month. Okay, that's it. There was nothing fancy to it. There was no real automations built in there. She didn't earn them out yet, right? The business hadn't got to that point. So once we got to the $5,000 range, we added a CRM. Once we got to, $7,500, we started looking at some ways to automate the workflow that she was doing. The business had to earn the tool. The business had to earn the software. And if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't get it. It doesn't get the software until it earns the software. All right. So how are we going to fix this? Simple. We're going to go cheap. We're going to find software that fits our budget. If that means we have to leave behind what we've done, so be it. You might think, I just lost a boatload of work. I hear you. Now look, if you think you can get the revenue up to support it, or you think that you can survive the drain and you're not going to be upset about the software, the money that you're sinking into the software, that's your business choice. That's fine. I'm not telling you have to do it this way. It's really up to you. Everything's up to you. But here's how I would do it. If I need to fix it, number one, I'm going to audit the software. I'm going to make a list. I'm going to add it all up. I'm going to list everything that we're spending. I'm going to look at it from a percentage of revenue. And then I'm going to categorize these softwares. Is it essential? Can my business run without it? I need a credit card or a merchant account. I need that. I need some sort of hosting. I need some domain, right? So if it's essential, it's on that list and it's listed as essential. And that becomes my core material, okay? Efficiencies. Does it give me efficiencies? CRM, automation. Hey, if it's those things, it goes into the efficiency bucket. Efficiencies are earned. Okay, we have the bare basics that we should have the business doing. That's keeping our costs low. Accounting software is a must-have. It's got to be up at the top. It's a basic necessity. Efficiency? No. Zaps? Nope. Not needed. Follow-up boss? Not needed. Some of you are starting to sweat. I hear you. I see you. It's okay. And then we get to everything else. That's the aspirational stuff. That's the fancy stuff. Like that's the more severe tech stack. So step 2 of this thing. Step 1 is I'm making a list, doing an inventory. Step 2 is I'm categorizing. Is it absolutely essential? Does it give me efficiencies? Is it aspirational? Is it going to be like this dream system that I have, like this dream tech stack? Where does it fall? Number 3, step 3, I'm cutting ruthlessly. That's it. I'm basically cutting everything back down. If it's essential, it stays. If it's a basic necessity, it stays. I cancel everything else today. Yes, today. Not next month, not at the end of the billing cycle. I'm doing it all today if I need to. And then I'm redirecting my energy. Instead of spending countless hours, like trying to design the ideal systems and the ideal operating systems and procedures and all that stuff, no way. I'm going manual and I'm going back to where I need to generate revenue, which is in the deal flow category. It's the basic. I'm moving my attention down. And finally, I'm setting thresholds. Okay. So I'm promising myself that I'm not going to add more software until I hit some milestone, whatever that is. When my sales reps tell me how nice it would be to have this type of software, I say, sure. When we get to this milestone, this monthly income, this, I don't know, when we get to this number of customers that we're supporting on a regular basis, absolutely we'll add it. But until then, you have to earn it. And then when they earn it, we add it back, one thing at a time, right? There's milestones that say when we add this software back, we do it very, very controlled. We control the funds. We keep them in the right percentage of revenue. And in that case, what we find is we have more control. Do we lose things? Yes. Are we as fancy as the guy next to me who's telling me about all his zaps and all the other stuff? No. Do I care? No, I don't. That's aspirational. And if he wants to go, maybe he has the business revenue to support it. Cool. When I get the business revenue there, I'll support that lifestyle too. Until then, there's lots of free tools that I can use. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to keep our money in our business because at the end of the day, please remember that software does not make us money. People do, but software does not. And right now, you're the one that's driving all of this. All right. So hopefully that was helpful to you. I'm loving the fact that you're here listening to this and hopefully getting these key takeaways from it. And I will see you in our next show.